Welcome back to another episode of Immigration Insights with Abeer Amin. Welcome, Abeer.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing great. How about yourself?
Good, good, good.
We know you're busy, so we really appreciate you taking time to join us today. And
My pleasure.
today we have a not an exciting topic for those who are dealing with this, but certainly this is going to prove to be a helpful topic for any employer who is facing a notice of deficiency. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode today.
Yeah.
So let's begin by defining what is a notice of deficiency. Where does this come into play? Why is this an
Sure.
important topic?
So basically, notice of deficiency is a notice, as you can tell by the name, that you get from the Department of Labor once an employer or their representative files an ETA 9142 with the ETA 9142B certification, appendix with the Department of Labor online. For the H-2B visas, the Department of Labor reviews your form and the application and all the supporting documents that validate your claim for the need for temporary workers. If they're not satisfied and if there's kind of some kind of discrepancy in your, for example, state workforce agency ad, then they say, okay, you know what? We're not convinced. These are the deficiencies, these are errors, or this is the doubt that we have with your applications. Here's a notice and respond to it.
Got it. Okay. So what percentage of applications typically have to deal with something like this?
Well, I feel more than half, like 50% of the applications that go through the H-2B process, they get an NOD. And
That's a lot
I'm
because there's
pretty
a lot of these
sure.
applications put in.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting at first for the employers, and I feel it's not bad to get a notice of deficiency. You should not panic. As long as what you said initially is consistent with what you have, is not a bad problem to have. It's a problem that can be solved. You just have to make sure that it's solved in in a timely fashion,
Okay.
and you have the resources to solve it. Yeah.
Okay. And so along those lines, so an employer receives a notice of deficiency. And so, they're in the H-2B visa application process. Obviously, they're in a place where their application is being processed if they're getting this notice of deficiency. So I guess the concern is, do they then lose their spot in line when trying to secure H-2B visa workers? Or
So they don't necessarily lose their spot in line. They lose a spot if they refuse to respond to it or they miss the deadline. Then they definitely lose the spot in line. However, in their middle, if they are in the process of responding to it, and when that happens, their application is like on a pause mode. Okay. So their process, Department of Labor is processing the applications which have notice of acceptance. You got a notice of acceptance. Okay, now you go to the next step, as an employer, go to the recruitment. So they're pushed aside, but they're not losing the process at that moment.
And then once they've done what's necessary to address the notice of deficiency, then they resubmit and then it immediately begins being processed again, right?
Exactly, yes.
Got it.
Okay. So they resubmit everything you submitted online in the portal, in the flag Department of Labor portal, and then it gets processed again.
Okay. So let's say an employer does that.
Resumes your process. I'm sorry, yeah.
So let's say an employer does that. They deal with the notice of deficiency, resubmit, and then let's say that another notice of deficiency comes up. Is that possible, or do they kind of find them all to begin with?
It is possible, but I haven't seen that, to be honest with you. It's very rare that we see a second notice of deficiency. In my practice, haven't seen a notice of deficiency submitted twice or issued twice by the Department of Labor.
Okay, good. Okay.
If they're not satisfied with your response on notice of deficiency, most likely they will, it will result in a denial for your initial ETA 9142 temporary application request.
Okay. So denial, that's it. That's door closed.
Yeah, door closed, okay. Unfortunately, yes. And then you have to wait for the next cycle.
So what are some of the most common causes for receiving a notice of deficiency?
I feel the most common causes which could be prevented before the start of this process is I feel employers um, they kind of do not work with their accounting or their tax department to really assess their business needs, right? We become greedy. Oh yes, I know, like, okay, I want the workers for the entire from April to, November. Or I need, I want it for this many months, or I need this many months because of this. They don't really assess their financials, right? To see what is the trend. You need to understand your financial trend to be able to understand if your temporary need is based seasonal, or if it's a peak load. And because of the initial assessment of their financial records and giving that to their attorneys or giving that to their recruitment agencies, what sometimes happens, but which is sad, is that they get asked, or they get put, or they request for a temporary worker, but based on a wrong category, right? Based
Okay.
on a peak load where their business does not support the peak load. And then once they do that, is kind of, you're fighting an uphill battle. So I
Gotcha.
feel the most things that I see in notice NODs is not understanding your own company's financials and not conveying that to your representative attorney of record.
Got it. Okay. You have a lot of experience dealing with these notice of
Yes,
deficiency?
yeah. So we have companies that we file for, but then we also work directly with recruitment agencies in which they are the company's representative, but then they reach out to us and basically we help them when they get any kind of notice of deficiency. We help them, draft it. We let them know how it's done, and basically we do it for them. So we basically take care of all those deficiencies. We offer, even if sometimes notice of deficiency are not curable. Okay. And they're not
Hmm.
curable because of the scenario that I explained to you last time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are curable, that, okay, it's not, even though, something can be revisited, something can be addressed. They did not actual provide the supporting documents, and we can review it. We can, write memos, give them the graphs, give them the, Excel sheets, so that we can go ahead and support their claim. But sometimes if the initial request is not based on their business needs, we let them know this is something that cannot be addressed at this time, and recommend them for a better, or something different for the next round.
Well, that's all the questions, at least that I have. Is there anything additional about the NODs that you would like to add?
Just one thing, um, getting an NOD is not detrimental. Okay, don't be scared just because you got, as an employer, you got one. Sometimes it's as simple as, your SWA order, your state workforce agency order, job order is missing a line, or is missing a specific requirement, which might be very minute for you. Like, for example, someone needs to use an additional tool that you mentioned in your initial PWD to do a job function, but which you fail to mention in a SWA job order. So it might be something as simple as that, which can be corrected and amended, and you can proceed forward.
Okay.
So it's not detrimental. Don't let it scare you. It's definitely can be dealt with. And even if you think, oh my God, I'm in group B or C or D, I'm not. What's the point? What's the purpose of responding to the notice of deficiency? I always highly, highly encourage employers to respond to the NODs. And a lot of employers don't do this with the help of attorneys. They do on their own, which is perfectly fine. And then they get a notice of deficiency, and then they decide to retain an attorney, and that's perfectly normal.
Hmm.
So don't be hesitant about that. Reach out for attorneys. Reach out to us, and I'll be more than happy to look at your notice of deficiency and let you know what is the probability of it being successful or not.
Got it. And how, if someone was needing help or just had more questions, how would they get in touch with you?
They're more than welcome to contact us via email, call us, set up a consultation. We are offering free consultation for NODs, a 15-minute consultation in which I will review have a brief talk with them, see what they submitted, review the NOD, and let them know if we need any additional documents to assess the case further. But with that being said, they get a pretty much a good overview if this is something that can be successful or not.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, thank you again for joining us today, Abeer. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome, Jim. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.